planning rates for an entire year is a much different animal than, planning to optimize your rates on a weekend or planning to optimize a Taylor Swift concert in town. It's a lot more kind of hyper focused and a lot more using that data in a more specific way versus a long-term kind of again, apartment situation where, hey, the market is increasing overall. I guess we can increase our yearly pricing just a little bit. It's kind of like the same animal, but like on overdrive, right? In the short-term space, you do it way more often and you have to be a little more precise.
Welcome to RevLabs by PriceLabs.
Hello everyone, welcome to this new episode of the RevLabs podcast, where we bring you insights about revenue management. And today I have with me Lejla Lolic. She's a solution consultant here at PriceLabs, and she's going to be talking about her own life. How did she become an expert at revenue management? Something you want to hear about, because maybe you're wondering right now how to get into the profession or how to get better at this. We'll also hear her own tips about managing a large portfolio, which of course, if you're listening to this show, you care about. Without further ado, let's welcome Lejla. Lejla, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm pretty good, thanks. Pretty good. Not too cold, not too warm. I think I'm in a Goldilocks position right now, so I'm fine.
Oh, good. That makes one of us. I'm in Indiana in the US, and it is absurdly cold here. So I'm glad there's at least some warmth out there.
Well, you said right now you were sitting in Indiana, so I'm curious. Can you tell us more about you? Where you're from? Where did you grow up, and how did you end up in our revenue management world?
Yeah. So to start at the beginning, I don't know if you had caught the weird spelling of my name. I'm actually from Bosnia. I was born there, lived there for a few years, and then moved to the US when I was 4. In terms of the revenue management space. So I have a slightly different background than a lot of the folks here at PriceLabs. I started out in apartment management, actually, so a little bit more long-term, and started out kind of in the leasing space and then moved my way up to being the property manager as well as the revenue manager for 365 apartments, actually. So there's a similar kind of software. It's a dynamic pricing software essentially in that space that I had grown really accustomed to. It had a lot of good data and charts. It was a little bit different than PriceLabs because it was a lot of like internal data versus PriceLabs, which is a lot of publicly available data. And so I had done that for about 5 years. I was ready for a little bit of a change and a slight shift in kind of the space that I was working in. And I felt like revenue management for the short term made a lot of sense. Again, kind of similar in terms of it being revenue management, using charts and graphs and data to make these decisions, which is something that I love. Just kind of a change of pace to what I had been used to for 5 years. So I ended up here at PriceLabs.
In your previous position, right, what made you want to start with revenue management? Is it just like out of chance, or did you study for this, or how did you get started?
Yeah, so with the position and myself moving up kind of in that role or in that company, excuse me, once I got to the role that I was in, which was the essentially revenue manager position in the property that I was working at, all 365 apartments, I ended up really taking to that portion of it and really enjoying the revenue management section of a couple of other duties that I was kind of juggling. And I knew that that was kind of where my brain was doing its best and kind of where I was thriving and what I was interested in focusing in on a little bit more. As I'm sure a lot of property managers in the short-term rental space can tell you, you wear a lot of hats, right? It's a lot of juggling. And so I was kind of ready to focus in on something that like I was actually very passionate about and something that made me feel like I was using my nerdy brain for good. And yeah, that revenue management ended up being where I went.
And thinking about short-term rental management now, what do you think is the biggest difference you see in this, in basically maybe how a revenue manager works, in the company where you were before, and how revenue managers work in the short-term rental world?
Yeah, so long-term rentals are a different ballgame in a sense. Whether it be the management section or the revenue management section specifically, it's a lot of kind of considering the long term. You make a couple of decisions here and there that will have big impacts for a year, for example, or 6 months, right? Short-term management is a lot more fast-paced. It's a lot more fun, in my opinion, actually. You're dealing with, instead of one resident in an apartment coming back to you over and over again, you're dealing with a bunch of brand new people adapting to what they want each time at each stay, planning the best you can for each individual person that's coming. And then same sort of thing when it comes to revenue, right? So planning rates for an entire year is a much different animal than planning to optimize your rates on a weekend or planning to optimize a Taylor Swift concert in town. It's a lot more kind of hyper focused and a lot more using that data in a more specific way versus a long-term kind of again apartment situation where hey, the market is increasing overall, I guess we can increase our yearly pricing just a little bit. It's kind of like the same animal, but like on overdrive, right? In the short-term space, you do it way more often and you have to be a little more precise.
Hmm. Now I guess now that you're working at PriceLabs, you've been working with some of our customers who have many listings. What have you seen work well, or maybe when you started working with them, what was kind of interesting for you to see, like any aha moment about the way some of them do their work, and it can be tactics, can be the way they organize. I don't know, but where we're like, that's kind of interesting, and it's good if other people knew about this.
Yeah, so I think my biggest thing that I recommend to folks, especially larger accounts, is the use of groups. I think that they're a game changer. Doing things in bulk, one, makes your life way easier when you're juggling a bajillion things, either as a revenue manager or a property manager. It's a lot, right? So anything you can do to make your life a little bit easier is awesome. Groups are also really cool in a way where like it makes you think about what strategies you're using, right? And that's what I always recommend to people is instead of saying, hey, all of these are located in Indianapolis, Indiana, let me put them in a group. If you're not using the same strategies for those, that doesn't do you a lot of good, right? There's not a whole lot of value in creating a group just to create a group, right? So I always recommend folks use kind of just kind of sit down, figure out what's going to make their life easier and what strategies are kind of similar so they can group those together. And once you've got that down, it makes your life, again, so much easier. It helps you pick up on trends in areas. It helps you pick up on trends in, room size, booking window. All of those sorts of things are done in a much more eye-opening way, I'd say, once you've got groups sorted in a way that makes the most sense. And then additionally, you can do things like, of course, the calendar adjustments for an entire group, date-specific overrides. All of those things make a lot of sense. And then on top of that, you also have subgroups, which are awesome. So subgroup is another thing that you can turn on inside of PriceLabs, which essentially lets you create another level of customizations, right? So when you go from maybe having everything in my Indianapolis group and my Fort Wayne, Indiana group, you can also have a subgroup that then you can categorize, or excuse me, you can then pick and choose a couple of units from there to put into that subgroup as well. And I've seen a lot of really successful people use subgroups in a way to kind of like monitor what's going well and what's not. So if they were to have like underperforming units or something like that, then they would keep those in the Indiana or in the Indianapolis and the Fort Wayne group, but also add it to like a, hey, let's discount these a little more aggressively group, right? So tons and tons of good things and data and making life easier when it comes to groups.
And If I want to know more about groups, for example, and I'm listening to this, how do I do this? Where can I find information about how PriceLabs uses groups?
Yeah, absolutely. So our knowledge base articles are incredible. I would start there. That gives you a really good kind of summary. I actually host a 201 webinar that we do every Thursday, I believe. You can sign up for that. And then a self plug.
Yeah, can you explain a bit that? Because I think the 2-1 webinar, basically we have like two recurring webinars at PriceLabs, and there's 101, obviously, if you're familiar with it means the basics, let's say, and 201. So it means it's a free webinar. Everybody can sign up for. Just go to our website and resources, webinars. You'll find this. So can you explain? So what's webinar like? What's happening there? What do you do out there?
Yeah, so if you are enjoying hearing me ramble, it's more of the same, really. It's a lot of information. I host the 101 as well, so it's a pre-recorded session with me. I go through kind of getting your account set up, and then the 201 is going to be more for optimizing your account a little bit more when it comes to customizations and groups. As you can surely tell, I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to customizations and groups, so I think it's a really fun one. It again, like you'd said, you can just sign up on the PriceLabs site. I believe it's under trainings, and we do the 101 every day, and we do the 201 weekly. And then I do the pre-recorded session, and a member of our team would then hop on and do a live Q&A with you. So if you were to have any questions or any concerns or anything like that, or wanted to kind of dig into anything, we always appreciate the questions. As someone who forces people to give me questions when I do those, and I force them to use the entire allotted time, we really do appreciate the questions, even if there's something hyper specific that you feel like you should probably talk to someone one-on-one about. Excuse me. It may be something that someone else has a question about, so I always encourage asking those in the 101 and 201s. We also do a couple of other ones, a couple of other webinars. So yeah, that's my suggestion for anyone watching those, is please feel free to ask questions. We love it. We are very bored when you don't ask questions, and I think that's a really useful resource to kind of figure out the general stuff about whichever topic you're interested in, and then you can kind of dive in and tackle it a little bit more there as well.
Cool. Last question on this. What do you think is the biggest mistake that you see some revenue managers do?
Yes, I've been waiting for this question. No. So I think that people tend to be a little bit stuck in their ways, for lack of better verbiage. I think especially folks who are maybe newer to PriceLabs and have large accounts are a little bit hesitant to kind of let PriceLabs do its thing, right? So I see a lot of folks go in and maybe start to overuse the customizations. The customizations are phenomenal. They really are. I just think that PriceLabs is an algorithm at its core, and it is using as much data and as much information as it can to kind of guide you in the right way. And sometimes overdoing those customizations takes us away from what PriceLabs does best. So my suggestion is, if you're considering maybe making customization adjustments, either talk to your solutions consultant or reach out to the support team and kind of talk it through. We're always there to help. I feel like recently, especially, I've been helping a lot of folks who have maybe over customized their way out of out of some good pricing, just due to kind of hesitancy, right? It's tough.
Yeah, I like what you're saying here, because in a way, I'm a product marketer here at PriceLabs, and an issue we have sometimes that we do listen to our customers, right? And some people want some specific customizations that they need to use for a very specific business case. And the issue I have sometimes, I'm like, should I really mention that we have that yet another customization, right? Because
Yep.
you don't want to overwhelm people. And as exactly you said, Lejla, the algorithm does the hard work in a way. and so there's really a fine thing. It's sometimes can be pushed by us, right? We're so happy sometimes. I know that's what we used to do, talk about customizations you can do, that it felt like people had to customize that much or had to use all this. Whereas what's always interesting to me, that the customizations we have mean that these things, we have those factors working for you. Seasonal factor is there, last minute discount is there, and we have a way to make it super smart, like last minute discounts. And if it's listed as a customization, it means you can tweak it, but it's already there. It's you
Yep.
already have last minute discount factor that's super smart based on market data and your hyper local market, super smart. So I think also, maybe it's on my side as a product marketer, right? Making sure that we are able to say we have this wealth of conversations should you need that. But exactly as you said, Lejla, but remember, the algorithm is super smart. It's doing a lot of what you need already. So it's something I want to plug as well here, that we just launched within our customizations, a way for people to see which customizations are being applied, so you realize what customization you already have. And there's a button called preview prices, which basically means like I can maybe add one more customizations on top of what I have, one more customization, and see the impact on my price, which I like, because it's like I can sort of test fast
Yep.
and also understand what I'm doing before I do anything
Yeah.
wrong or right.
100%. I love that feature. I think it's so nice, especially like prior to having that, before you would have to make a customization, and then with the people that I've worked with, I see folks maybe add like 2 or 3 customizations at once, right? And then go back to their calendar and see how prices have changed, which is fine. That's a way to do it. But being able to see individually which customization changes which pricing when, I think is a game changer.
Yeah.
And I think it's so smart that we've done that.
Yeah, exactly. And our customers are very smart. It's really up to us to make sure things are transparent, and we
Exactly.
catch them if we need to, say, hey, is it really what you want to do? And let them proceed, because in the end, the PriceLabs should work the way people want it to work,
Yep.
and making them aware of what it does not do. It's really key. Lejla, anything you want to add today?
No, not really. I think this was a really good conversation. I got to geek out a little bit, which is always fun. So thank you for having me.
It was super fun on my side. If people want to contact you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can reach me at layla.lolich@pricelabs.co. You can also add me on LinkedIn if you want. I'm trying to get a little bit more social. So
There we go. That's 2025. Let's get social. I like
that's
that.
it.
Lejla, once again, thank you so much for your energy today and for your time. You take care.
You as well, Tiva. See ya.